Hello, hello, baddies. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday, which I thought was Friday. It's been a week.
It's been a few weeks, man.
Yeah, it has been. We have been busy. If no one has been keeping up, we have been very, very busy. But it's all good things. Blessings abound.
What is it? Booked, blessed, and busy? Yes.
Yes. All day, every day, for sure. But I am excited for tonight's episode. I was telling you that last night. I was just like, it feels like we haven't done this in a while.
I mean, we skipped, so we had to skip a week, guys, because it was getting out of control, man. It was like, how do we do Baddies Talk Back, and then Baddies Up, and then we're working on all of these new partnerships that we can't wait for you to hear about. And yeah, we had to give ourselves a minute to breathe. So we're thankful our special guest tonight, Monisha and April, worked with us so we could push it back a week. Tonight is going to be awesome. You guys know that we are not afraid of taking on the hard topics. I think that's one of the things we've become really well known for, is taking on the hard topics, especially for communities of color. And tonight's episode, Grieving the Friends we love and the Bodies we lost, was really inspired by Marissa's blog that she wrote. So Marissa, can you kick off on just giving us a little synopsis of what inspired this blog for you?
Yes, which a lot of people I think know so far. I met one of my really good friends on Instagram, Christina, when we were both diagnosed around the same time. And, unfortunately, she developed metastatic breast cancer and she passed away about 2 years ago. And just it was very hard for me, and nobody really talks about grief. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to write the blog, not only just battling with her passing, but also losing myself and who I was before I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So yeah, that's pretty much what the blog was about. And I can't wait to talk about it with everybody.
Yes. So tonight we brought on 2 breast cancer baddies and new baddie ambassadors. If you guys saw our new weight screen, those are all our 16 baddie ambassadors, though we swore we would only do 12. We pushed ourselves. We have 16, so they're our new hold screen, they're our new Facebook cover, our new Twitter cover, because we are so excited for these ladies. Tonight, we are going to be joined by Monisha, who did an incredible blog called I Am Woman, Redefining Womanhood After Breast Cancer, and April Finley, who did a blog called Ebony. So, Monisha is a married mother of 3 who was diagnosed with stage 2B breast cancer at the age of 28. She started her blog, Purpose Painted Pink, to share her experience and offer encouragement and hope to others. Her diagnosis also inspired her cancer diagnosis to children, and she enjoys spending time with her family and traveling. So let's go ahead and welcome Monisha to the screen.
Hey, girl.
Hi. How you doing?
How are you?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Good.
So happy to have you.
I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
Marissa, would you like to introduce April?
Yes. So April as well. Hold on one second. So April Finley, she is a high school counselor diagnosed at the age of 35. She has BRCA1 positive, stage 2 triple negative. April is a single Southern belle looking to share her testimony and to help others fight for their life. April is also a regional coordinator for the beautiful ministry nonprofit called Compassion That Compels. Everyone, please welcome April Finley.
Hello. How are you, boo?
I am well. How are y'all?
We're doing
good.
As a true Southerners say.
Yeah.
How are y'all?
Before we get started, I have to give a huge shout out to Compassion That Compels. If you didn't know, they made a big donation today in your name, which was pretty incredible. So we're very thankful for them. I had the honor of meeting Christiane personally about a year ago while she was in Jacksonville, Florida, and she is absolutely genuine and incredible. So shout out to Compassion That Compels and all the incredible work that's happening over there.
Yes.
That is amazing. Thank you, Compassion. Thank you, Christiana. Love you guys.
All right, so let's kick this off, Marissa, and I'm going to start with you just because this conversation was really inspired by that duality of grief that I don't think we talk about enough, which is why we have Monisha and April here, because they're sharing both of those sides, what it's like to grieve your body and what it's like to grieve the loss of your friends. I'm kind of in the middle of all of that. And so the definition of grief is deep sorrow. In your blog, you said, not only do we grieve the ones we've lost in the process, we grieve the body parts we've lost, like our breasts and our hair, the friendships and relationships that have come and gone, the person that we once were, the woman we used to look at in the mirror, but suddenly had to leave behind. Was breast cancer your first experience understanding grief as an emotion beyond physical death?
Yes. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like it before. And I've always, even while I was going through treatment and coming towards the end of it, I was always still wondering, am I going to get back to this person that I was before, or is she just completely gone? And then having to come to that realization that, I probably will never be the person that I was before was something hard to take in, because I didn't know which pieces of me I would take with me or that I would have to leave behind. And so just that whole grieving process of okay, I am going to be this new person, but it's almost, cliche of what everybody says. It's kind of you're coming out of your cocoon, or a butterfly is coming out, and you don't realize that in the moment because you're just sad that, I'm just not going to have my life out, was before. I'm not going to necessarily look the same physically, emotionally, I'm going to be different. We've had before, some of our baddies talked back before, sexually, it's going to be different. Everything is going to be completely different. And being able to recognize that and be okay with it, that was the hard part.
Monisha and April, is that something that you can relate to? Was breast cancer your first experience understanding grief as something more than physical death?
Say for me, definitely, and especially because I was 28, so I went from I went to my 10-year high school reunion, and the next month I was going through breast cancer. So you lose your hair, your breast, and I had an oophorectomy, so it's everything that you associate with your womanhood is stripped away all at once. So it was definitely that for me. I felt that.
Yeah. For sure. What about you, April?
I think I was a little different. I was diagnosed at 35. And at that time in my life, I was saying that 35 was going to be my year. This was going to be my year that I was going to settle down with somebody. I was seriously considering having a baby. And when I got hit with the diagnosis, it really didn't faze me about having to remove my breast. I was fine with that. It bothered me maybe a little bit about my hair, but I'm a wild card about my hair anyway. You don't know what you're gonna get some days. One day it might be long hair, don't care, and it might be short and sassy. You just never know with me. So, but I think that the hardest part about it, me grieving, was when I had to do the total hysterectomy. Final, it was final that I was not going to be able to have a baby naturally. That was the hardest part for me. But, I totally believe that, God doesn't make mistakes, that it's all a part of his plan. And I'm a mother already to many, many, many children as a high school counselor, as a counselor, period. So that was probably the biggest part of loss for me, was the total hysterectomy.
Yeah. And you recently had that, right?
Yes, I had it in December.
That's what I was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Monisha, in your blog, you said my womanhood had nothing to do with the hair on my head. The removal of my breast did not subtract from the sum of my womanhood. That is like a beautiful phrase. Sum of my womanhood. In fact, breast cancer taught me just how much of a woman I really am. Talk about that journey to that revelation.
It took me a while to get there because I was just devastated. I think for me, like the biggest thing was like my hair. Like, oh my gosh, like I kept it covered up forever. And it finally had to come to a point where like I just broke down, just allowed myself to just go through, just to feel everything when I was like, okay, you got this. Like that doesn't define you. You know, you're just as much as a woman. It helped me, mature a lot. It helped me to just be grateful and compassionate. And actually, my mother is a breast cancer survivor. Okay. And when she was diagnosed before me, but once I started chemo and I started losing my hair, she actually shaved her hair off with me. And that was like, okay, like I'm good. Like if she has gone through chemo before, her hair had completely grew back and she decided like, you know what, you're going through it. I'm shaving my hair too. I was like, you know what, I need to tighten up. Like there are worse. So my mom was a big part of helping me get to that realization too. So
yeah, my mom was like, she definitely is still like such an integral part of my journey. I think it really brought us closer together because I was diagnosed at 26. And thank God my mother has not been diagnosed with breast cancer, but her mother has been 3 times. She's currently a metastatic Baddie. And so the journey really brought us closer together. And I think my mom was really integral in helping me come to peace with everything that was happening in my life. And then again, going back to faith and just trying to remain strong when everything is going chaotic around you. At the same time, though, I think it's so important for us to be okay with not being okay with losing our hair and losing our breath. I don't think anyone really talks about the mental impact of breast cancer treatment. They go in, they say, we're cutting your breast, you're going to lose your hair. And I don't think my doctors talked to me about it at all. It was so much centered on like the physical body. It really ignored everything spiritually and emotionally that goes on a breast cancer journey.
Right. And it's like, even if they weren't focusing so much on the physical, they were more so focused on us just getting through treatment and saving our lives, but not like all of the collateral damage that's happening while you're going through treatment. And then towards the end, and even now, like I'm sure like all of us can even say being out 3-4 years from now, like you're still dealing with, and I'm sure people who are even survivors longer than us, like they're still dealing with some of the mental effects that are going on.
Absolutely. I tell people that like I don't tell early stage women that are newly diagnosed, but I think the reality is that it's the journey doesn't end when you finish active treatment. It changes. It's ongoing. I think I was expecting it to like it's done, but the reality of how I felt when I finally realized everything that I had been doing for the past few months, like really at the end of active treatment is when it hit me. And that's when you realize you really have to put your whole life back together. So it doesn't end. It really just changes.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. So
I had a question for April and she ran away.
I know. I was going to ask her a question too. I was like, what happened? Well, Monisha, I know another part in your blog, you had said there were 3 affirmations that you used to help redefine yourself after breast cancer. And it was, I am strong, I am beautiful, and I am resilient. What made you choose these 3 affirmations and how did they help you?
It helped me a lot because, you always hear people say like, you don't look like you've been through anything. You don't look like what you've been through. And you hear that so much, but you don't always feel it. So for me, those things I had to like affirm myself. Like I had to know it for myself. It didn't matter how many people said like, girl, you look good. I didn't feel that way. So just repeating those things to myself helped me to kind of like, okay, like you say it so much, you really begin to believe it and remind yourself like who you are and whose you are. Because my faith was a big part of my journey as well. So that definitely I had to like put it up where I could read it every day and say it to myself to really start to feel that way. Because for a while I didn't. No matter how many people said it, and you hear that all the time. You're like, okay, you're so strong, but you don't feel it. So it definitely helps to like affirm yourself.
Right. I mean, when people would tell me that I didn't look like what I'd been through, I'd be like, that's all God, man. If you only knew. That is all God. I mean, like I'm in my 3rd year, and I remember like every time I go to a doctor, especially a new doctor, they're looking at my chart and they're like, you've been hospitalized how many times? Like, and this short amount of time frame. And I'm just like, it's God. Like, it's the only reason that I can stand here and that I can smile and that I can really kind of carry myself through this every day. Now, Dr. Alexia has a great point, and I think that is a great phrase. Dr. Alexia said, doctors cure, not heal. Yeah, I love that. That is a great thought.
I do too. Yeah. April, girl, where you disappeared to? We was getting ready to ask you a question and you just popped out the screen. And yeah, I'm calling you out on that one.
What happened was somebody was at my door and I had to unlock the door. Well, the door was unlocked. Didn't read the text. But anyway, okay. So what was the question you were going to ask me?
Yeah. So you and I kind of have a similar story where we both met people online, funny enough, on Instagram while we were going through our treatment. So you met Ebony on Instagram and you bonded, and she was later diagnosed, and, you know, sadly, she succumbed to metastatic breast cancer. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey together?
Yeah. So when I got diagnosed, I come from a family of women who have battled breast cancer. My grandmother, who was 98 years old, she battled breast cancer in her mid-40s. 2 of my aunts also battled breast cancer, as well as one of my aunts battled ovarian cancer. So I had these women in my family who had battled, this disease and had, survived and done well. But I didn't know anybody who was around my age who had, been through the same journey. So I went to social media looking for somebody who looked like me, who had experienced, what I had experienced. So it took me a while. So when I got to Instagram, I met, it was a young woman by the name of Ebony who was posting about her journey. And it was like, the heavens opened up, the angels started singing, because I was like, I finally found somebody who looks like me, who can help the situation. So I kind of slid into her DM and was like, hey, girl, if I reach out to you every once in a while, I got a few questions about some things. So we instantly became like very close friends, where, she talked to me through my treatment journey. Every doctor's appointment I had, we were texting and Marco Poloing. At the time, I wasn't team iPhone, so we were.
You had them green messages.
Yeah. So she is who God blessed me with, because He knew I needed her through my journey. Like everything I needed to know, like, what would my chest look like after the mastectomy? What I needed to do with the drains, just everything, the pills, the Xeloda that I had to take for 6 months after finishing chemotherapy, what to expect as far as like symptoms when I was going through the Red Devil and Taxol, everything. She laid out every single thing for me. And as close as we were, you would think that I had known this person all my life. And our plan was to celebrate in person once I finished my treatment. But then she had a reoccurrence and became metastatic that summer after I'd had my mastectomy, and she passed in January. So I didn't get the opportunity to meet her. But I did have the opportunity to meet her children, her husband, and I have a beautiful relationship with them. So I feel like I have a piece of her with them. And I made a promise that I was going to be to somebody else who she was to me, because if it was, I don't know if I'd have been able to get through some things without her. And It's different because my support system is bomb. Like, I would go to chemo and it'd be like a whole crew with me. Like, you're talking about 5, 6 people coming with me to chemo. And I wasn't asking people to come. They were just showing up like, hey, you got chemo today? I'm on my way. And it was amazing, but it hit different when you got somebody in your corner who's been through it,
Right. Yeah. So, and I think that's one of the really good things that I know that Jasmine and I love about this, organization that we put together, and then our private Facebook group that we have, just some of the conversations that we have in there. Like, we can talk about hair, what your hair look like when it's going to grow back, like what do your burns look like when you have radiation, or even just stuff like, girl, what are you using when you do this and that with your partner, or tell me what the sex therapist told you, like those type of conversations with people that you can get it. And I know that that's one of the reasons why Jasmine and I wanted to bring together a platform like this. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always said that remaining engaged in the breast cancer community can almost feel like being in a constant state of grief, because you're always reminded of what you've lost, especially if you're helping other women along the journey, you're reminded of the changes that your body went through, the process that you went through. And you're also constantly losing people that you care about. Do you guys think remaining engaged in the breast cancer community has made it harder or easier for you to heal? I feel like it probably depends on the time, like it ebbs and flows for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Monisha? How would you answer that?
I'd say for me, like, I didn't really get like fully engaged in the community until after like I was on the other side of it, because I just really didn't know where to look. Like, I was the youngest person going into chemo at 28, so I didn't find groups until afterwards. But I feel like I don't know if it's a quote I read, but it says like, once you've gone through hell, you kind of have the obligation to run back in with buckets of water to kind of help people. So for me, it doesn't. For me, it doesn't, perpetuate grief. It makes me feel better, because I feel like it's part of the obligation that I have, like, to share my story. Like, that's kind of the least I feel like I can do, because I know how I felt and how alone you can feel when you're going through it. Like, nobody really understands. So like, even when I go back for appointments, like if I see somebody walking, like, you almost want to like reach out and be like, it's going to be okay. Like, you just feel compelled to do something, even though if you reminded, I know whenever I'm talking about chemo, like, I can remember like my port, like it brings back those memories, but I don't feel like it puts me in a state of grief. It's more gratifying for me that I know I'm able to reach out and help somebody else through it. So.
Right. I love that. Yeah, I really do. I know that there was a part in the blog that I had wrote that I wanted to share, where it says, not only do we grieve the ones we lost in this process, we grieve the body parts we've lost, like our breasts and our hair, the friendships and the relationships that have come and gone, the person that we once were, the woman who we used to look at in the mirror but suddenly had to leave behind. And that was like one of the things where it's just like, every time I would always say I'd catch a glimpse, or I would have my friends or family be like, oh, I could see the old Rissa's coming back. And, you kind of get like, oh, okay, like she's coming. And then you realize like, but she's not here anymore. She's not, like, I'm not the same person. And I was saying that earlier today, like, I'm actually proud and okay of the person that I am now versus who I was before. Like, there are parts that I miss, and that didn't necessarily come with me, but I'm okay with where I'm at right now. So I think that's a big thing to even tell women who are afraid that they're going to change and not even be the same person that they were before. Like, you're probably going to be okay on the other side too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Marissa, in your blog, you talked about grief as an ongoing process. So, especially in communities of color, mental health, one is like in the ratings, we don't report very good mental health ratings. And on the flip side of that, we don't really talk about mental health enough, a lot. There's a lot of stigma around it. So what helped you become okay with not being okay sometimes?
Definitely seeing my therapist for sure. She helped me a lot. And then just realizing like I've never dealt with it, anybody close to me passing away. So I think that's what really hit me. Like even when like I knew that Christina was going to pass away, her and I had talked about it. I knew up until the minute when she was going to pass away. And even when I found out, like I didn't cry or anything because I just knew. And it didn't hit me until I was actually leaving from her funeral and getting ready to hop on the plane. Like I literally got in the car and that's when I like broke down. And, you know, it's just being okay with knowing, like, I hate crying. I talk about it all the time, but even being with my son, like him just consoling me and me being able to show him that emotion and just wanted to know, like, you know, grief is one of those things, like it's not parallel. It comes and goes. You never know when it's going to hit. You never know, you know, it could be like 5 years from now and then you could just hear a song or you can be eating something and then it'll hit you then. But just knowing that it's okay to have those emotions and feel that and sit in that for a minute and then just know you're going to be okay to, you know, keep moving on from that point. But definitely, like I say, everybody needs therapy. And, you know, that's not a bad thing. Like, we can all laugh about it. I can be like, everybody should have therapy because everybody has baggage that they have to unpack. And it's just good to, like, talk to somebody that's unbiased, that's going to hear what you have to say, even if you just have to word vomit it all out, but being able to do that and feel okay with it.
Absolutely. How about you, April? What was that process like for you?
I actually ended up going to seeking a therapist after Ebony passed because I just had a very difficult time dealing with the fact that she had passed away. I started to feel survival guilt or whatever. And my oncologist is the one who pointed it out to me. I went to an appointment and he said that you have got to get a handle of what's going on with you and you need to go and you need to talk to somebody. And with me being a counselor, you know, one of the biggest things that's said is that, you know, we put everybody before ourselves. But I literally during treatment, I can say that my friends really did step up and they were there, but it was different. It hit different when you go to somebody who doesn't know you and you can be vulnerable and you can share how you're feeling. And then they can bring out some things that maybe people who are close to you are maybe a little intimidated with telling you.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had moments, you know, like everybody has said, where sometimes I was fine. And even now, sometimes I'm fine. And then there are some days where it's just heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, having a community of support, whether it be for the rest of us or compassion, or whether it's just your circle of friends or your family to help you kind of get through those times, you know, that's really what has helped me to carry on.
I love that. Yeah. So I have to bring up Jenny's comment.
I seen it and I was like, ooh, I know we're going to talk about this.
We're not doing you heathens, Jenny. Godless heathens have to find something to believe into. And I think that's really important. And it's interesting because, you know, I had the pleasure of going to the National Breast Cancer Coalition conference, the summit. That's part of Young Survival Coalition's advocacy group, RISE. And they talked about how faith is a key point in resiliency, specifically for African American and Latino women. Like for us, faith actually allowed us to cope with stress better, and it allowed us to conference summit. That's part of. Do you guys hear feedback? I'm sorry. Is that me? Okay. And then it also allowed us to rebound better from disease. So I'm very curious. I hope Jenny's still on. I'm very curious about that perspective of anyone that is not faith-centered. What has helped you remain anchored or find hope in your journey? So I'm going to be watching the chat for that comment, and we can come back to that.
Yeah, I don't want them to call themselves heathens though, because I don't feel like just because you right, just because you don't go to church or you may not believe in God, whatever you like, that doesn't necessarily make that you're a heathen though. So yeah, Jenny, we're not going to use that word. We're going to say something different.
And I'm sure she was just playing, Jenny.
No, I know.
And Taisha has a great point. She said that she wished she had joined earlier, but she wasn't ready. And I hear that a lot. Interestingly enough, there was a time when I was not ready to go to support groups because I don't think I was ready to be like, I have cancer. Like I wasn't ready for it. And especially because I opted out of chemo and I felt guilt about having a choice to do that. So when it was time for me to start my Lupron injections and I had to go into the infusion center to do that, it weighed on me so heavy to have to go in there and really be like, no, I had cancer. And all of these people have cancer, and it's a new reality when you start going to support groups and you realize like, no, I'm in this.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know about y'all, but Marissa, you kind of mentioned this earlier today when you did your interview with Snow, that I don't think it really hit me what I was going through until after it was over, because I had to fly back and forth or go back and forth to Atlanta. So in my mind, I had already psyched myself up like, oh, we're going to make this like a little getaway. There's a million restaurants in Atlanta. So you can just hit concourse A, B, C, D, E, F and find something different. I mean, I think I mentally psyched myself out. Like I didn't even think about it. But then after the fact, once it was over, it was like, did that really just happen?
Yeah,
it happened.
Yeah, I used to say that all the time, just to be like even a year out, I would be like, oh, so I really actually did have cancer. I actually went through all of that. Oh, okay. Because you just you don't know, you mentally just block it out. Everything that you were going through for, we'll just say a year, right? And then when you get on the other side, it's like you get on the other side and it's even an analogy of being it's sunny, there's rainbows, everything's all nice and green, and it's okay. And then everybody there's waiting for you at the finish line, yes, you made it, you're done, it's time to celebrate. But you're like, man, I am messed up here. And I don't even know, I don't know if I'm supposed to cry. I don't know if I'm supposed to smile. I don't know. And I think we all kind of isolate ourselves from that. You still thank all of your family and your friends and everything for all their support, but you're also just I don't know what to make of this. And so I think that's a part of the grieving process too, right?
Right.
I definitely felt like, I don't think you have time to. I don't think people realize how quick decisions are made. And so there is no time to really take in the emotion or the impact of the kind of decisions that you're having to make. It's literally you have one shot to freeze some eggs or embryos before you start radiation or chemo. And this time, you are moving so fast. And I think you're so focused on getting to the end. When you finally get to the end, you don't know what to do when you get there.
Right.
I told people before, I always use kicking an old school, a VHS analogy. I feel like the people around me were able to press pause and kind of help me make it through. And then when I finished active treatment, they were able to press play and pick up where they had left off.
Right.
I was on a different tape now. I could not, there was just no way I could pick up and be who I was and feel who I was, because I had gone through so much. I just was not the same person.
Your life is forever changed. I mean, I think the hardest part for me was afterwards, because I didn't have the safety net of chemotherapy anymore. So, and then it was just this pill. And I'm like, well, is that going to be enough? Or well, why can't I take this pill for the rest of my life? And, my oncologist was like, April, at some point, you're just going to have to trust and have faith. And that was the heaviest thing for me to just accept. That was heavier than being told that I had cancer. Just, you got to have faith that I've done the best that I could do. You've done the best that you could do. Now we wait. And that is heavy.
Right.
And then to try to explain to somebody after the fact, like I don't sleep at night. And y'all see me over here with this fan. I have hot flashes. It's hot over here, but I'm still hot sometimes. So, explaining to someone who hasn't been through the journey that, hey, I have a difficult time waking up in the morning. People might put you off as, oh, she's just being lazy. No, I legit have issues with that. And I'm just thankful that, I have an amazing principal who accepts that and doesn't give me a hard time. But people think that once you finish treatment, you're done. You should go back to normal. But really, your life is forever changed, and you may never, ever go back to who you were before.
Right.
And I think that's why that goes back to the importance of therapy and being able to connect with someone that's unbiased, because people think that the only feeling you're supposed to have is gratitude. Right. And you are feeling so many things, and sometimes you don't want to come off ungrateful, but you also want to have room to be like, man, like, I don't know what I'm going to do about my body or how I feel about my body. I don't know like how I feel going back out into the world without my hair. Or for me, I was triple D's. So I had big boobs. And so when I woke up and I wasn't completely flat, I had expanders, but they're so much smaller than what my old breasts were. I was very self-conscious. I was like, I don't want like a man now because I'm having to wear bigger shirts to cover my drains and my hair. Like I had the what's the movie? Set It Off. Was it yeah, girl. I had to clean up the drains because I couldn't do nothing with my hair, and I was just so concerned. But I'll tell you guys, the interesting thing about it is that because I was so self-conscious about my breast, it eventually evolved and allowed me to be so much more comfortable in the skin that I'm in down the line. So like I've always had to deal with acne and eczema and all these things. And I wasn't focused on that anymore because I was so focused on my breast. But like down the line, it really actually helped me like become comfortable in my skin and accept my body, because I always tell people, like, especially radiation or reconstruction, it's literally like week to week, you are having to make peace with your body. Mm-hmm. If my skin doesn't recover, is this it? If my boobs don't get bigger than where they are now, is that it? And if it is, can I make peace with that? So absolutely.
Yeah. We got a lot of comments coming in, which is good. I wanted to ask, like, for everybody on the screen, and even some of the comments there, what advice would you give to women who are still grieving over the woman and the person that they were before their cancer diagnosis?
My biggest thing would be to embrace her, because I love the woman I am today, and I don't think I could have become her without my journey. I'm just so thankful for the experience, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, absolutely not. But I definitely think that I allowed a situation to make me better and not bitter, and ultimately be a blessing to others. So absolutely embrace her. What about you guys?
I mean, I would say the same, just it's a process, just to give yourself some grace, because it takes time. But I feel like once you think through all the things you've gone through, you realize like you made it. Like you go from like fighting for your life to, it gives you something to be grateful for, but it's also okay. Like you don't have to put a timeline on it. Like you might not embrace her within a year, like give yourself some grace. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that we put so much pressure on ourselves, especially I think as women of color, we feel like we have to be strong, like for everybody, not just for ourselves. And that puts like added pressure. Like we don't want to cry in front of people. Like we'll do it. Like I broke down so many times, like in private, and then you wipe your tears and you go back out in the fight mode. And I feel like just knowing that it's okay, be patient with yourself and give yourself some grace. Like there's no timeline on it. So I think that's the biggest thing.
And I would think, like, I don't really think I understood the concept of grace until I went through this journey.
Yeah.
And because I understand that now, I can lend grace to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I had it, but really, you are so right. Like, you have to be patient with yourself. You have to give yourself a chance. I always tell people, feel how you feel. Other people may project their feelings on you. It's okay for you to feel how you feel, no matter what that feeling is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You guys.
What about you, April?
I have always been pretty confident in how I look, in my looks and my appearance, but I had a difficult time after when I had the mastectomy, and once the girls were gone, I was like, my stomach is that big, like it really bothered me. But then when I had the deep flap, oh honey, listen, you can't tell me not a doggone thing. Y'all better be glad I'm an educator. That's all I can say. I'm an educator, okay? But I honestly think we as women, especially women of color, we have got to stop with the body shaming. Like, we are beautiful in all shapes, all sizes, all colors. And we have to embrace that within ourselves first. So if I'm not comfortable in my own skin, of course I'm going to find flaws in somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So one of my big things in life is just to compliment everybody, because there's something beautiful about each and every one of us, even things that I find a flaw in. It's beautiful to somebody else, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it took, that was probably the only time I had a little difficulty with, my image. But now I just encourage, whether you had a life altering diagnosis or not, you got to embrace you, love you, because if you can't do that, then how do you expect somebody else to love and embrace you?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about survivor's guilt? I know you touched on this a little bit, April, and I know for me, actually, even when I was going through chemo, because I mean, I don't know if it's just like when you're diagnosed with cancer, you kind of like notice everybody else that's kind of being diagnosed at the same time. And so seeing people that were diagnosed and then they were passing away and then feeling guilty about that like I'm doing okay. Or even after when Christina had passed away, like, I didn't even want to be online or on social media or anything, because I'm like, I don't want to see another person pass away. And I also just like, I'm tired. I just don't want to. And I feel bad that like I'm here. But I think now going through all that and coming on the other side, I'm also like, now I have a purpose. And like, now I have to continue and keep carrying on what I'm supposed to be doing, not even if it's just necessarily for me, but even just for her. Right. That other Hispanic women, other African American, Asian, all other women can, continue to thrive regardless, no matter what stage of breast cancer they're in. But how for each of you, like, how did you deal with like survivor's guilt, or did you have survivor's guilt at all?
So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So I had a friend, and she was not diagnosed with breast cancer, but she was diagnosed with lymphoma. And right around the time that I came public, and the reason I went public with my diagnosis is because I told myself, like, I'm either going to have to ghost everybody for a few months because I'm going to lose my boobs and my like, there's no way you're going to walk up to me in the street and just be like, so I knew that there were going to be some physical differences when people approached me. And I didn't like people creating their own narratives, and I decided to control the narrative. So after I went public, Lindsay reached out to me, and I didn't even know that she was sick. So I found out in December, I announced in January. And I think she had been diagnosed and started treatment like in October. And she's like, so I'm already chemically bald and I'm going through this and we're going to get through this together and blah, 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 blah. And like, even though our diagnoses were different, I had somebody else that was like about my age, and like we were making these horrible jokes because That's what we do to get through the madness. But we were like planning, like when we kick, what shows are you watching, girl? What are you binging? Like all of this stuff. And when we kick this, we're gonna meet up and we're gonna have some drinks and we're gonna have a good time. And then all of a sudden, the messages started slowing, and it's like it's not good. The bone marrow thing didn't work out, and this is really risky, and I'm scared. And we were having these conversations, and then it just got to the point to where I was just sending her text messages every time I thought of her, and I would just not get a response. And then out of nowhere, I got a call from her best friend, which is a mutual friend, and she's like, "So Lindsay's in hospice. We're preparing for her to go. Can you send a letter?" And man, you know, it was, I remember like walking into work when I got this call, and I just felt like this weight come over me. And I think I did feel a little guilty because I thought Lindsay was awesome. She was such like, she was such an awesome chick. Like she was tough. Like she was not the kind of person that you would think, like, we're going to kick this. So to be in that position where it's like we're supposed to be celebrating this together, and now I'm having to go to your funeral, like that really did bother me for a while, man. It did bother me. But her homegoing was so beautiful, and it's really where I adopted my love of sunflowers, because sunflowers, no matter what, they always find a way to keep their face to the sun, like they turn for it. And I think that was probably one of the most beautiful things that she could have ever left for me, that understanding to always keep your face to the sun. But I did. For a while, I really struggled with like, why did I make it through this and why didn't she?
Yeah. Monisha, what about you? Did you have any survivor's guilt?
I did not really connect with anyone online. I kind of just had people that I would follow, and just building like an online community, like I would find people to follow. And when you see like someone post like this person didn't make it, it hits you like here, and it hits you in your gut, because you're like, oh my gosh, like that's one thing. Once you get so involved in the community, even if you don't know a person personally, if you never had a conversation, like it's still something about that, knowing like even if your diagnosis wasn't exactly the same, you just know like that could have been, like you almost feel like that could have been me. And I think there is a little bit a sense of guilt, but I think for me it's more of a sense of purpose, like you were saying, Marissa, like, you know, like, okay, I'm still here, so there's a reason, like I'm here on purpose. It makes you want to be more intentional and want to, you know, do something. So I mean, that's how kind of I've handled it. That's how it's been for me.
Yeah, that's why you guys are, you know, you're our Baddie ambassadors. Yeah. Gotta get you guys out there, because yes, we know everybody has a purpose, though, for sure.
Yeah.
And I know, Jasmine, you have put Natalia's comment up there, which I had looked to, because I can actually, you know, I can relate to that one. She said, I don't have survivor's guilt, but I do have mother's guilt, that I'm a mother and others are not. And I definitely can relate to that as well. Even like, you know, most people know I have a son. At the time I was diagnosed, I was thinking about, you know, possibly having another. Like I was at that point, like either I got to have another or I'm just going to be done. And then, you know, cancer happened, but then meeting other women and hearing their stories, and especially, you know, I would say a lot of women of color, like we all want to, you know, harvest our eggs and, you know, get egg retrieval. But I think a lot of us, it's hard to do. And like Jasmine said, it's such a fast paced process, because even when I went to go have it done, they were just like, you need to have this done. You need to have this done. And there was so much being thrown at me at the time. I just didn't, I couldn't make that decision at the time. So I just said, never mind. But having that type of guilt, I can relate to that as well.
I was actually going through the process to start having a family when I was getting my diagnosis. I was in the appointment with my OB talking about like, hey, let's go ahead, because I have PCOS. It was like, hey, let's go ahead and start this medicine so we can try to conceive. But this boob, though. And that just kind of like, I mean, it changed everything. And I was angry. And I don't think I really put anger, I didn't associate it with being angry, but I was very angry because my neighbor who was much older than me, I'm diagnosed at 26, my neighbor who was much older than me, around the time I'm finding out that I have my diagnosis, she found out that she was pregnant. And I was just like, really, Jesus? That's what we're doing.
Right.
I was, and I could not, it took me months before I could really be around women that were pregnant, before I was willing to have conversations with women that were pregnant or just talk about it, because I was angry. And there's still a lot of uncertainty because I don't have kids yet. And I think I have more peace with it now than I did then, though. But I think around that time, it was like, man, I can't believe that I don't know if I'll have that option. And I think that was it. Like, it's just not knowing if you have the option, or like when you know for sure that you don't have the option.
Right.
Yeah. I find myself the first Mother's Day, I guess after maybe the mastectomy, was I couldn't do it. It was a hard day, and every Mother's Day since then has been a hard day. And I find myself being angry on that day because it's like, this is something that I wanted for me, and I'm not gonna have it in the capacity that I wanted it. Mm-hmm. And my family has been super supportive, but for me, like, Mother's Day is tough because it's like everybody's posting with their kids, and and it's like, yeah. But then I have, there's always a silver lining. There's always a student who will send me a message or who will call me and just say, "Hey, I love you. Happy Mother's Day." And that means more to me than I think they would. They could never understand how much that means to me because, yeah, it's tough. But you just kind of gotta push through it. That's the best way I know how to deal with that. Just push through it.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
What about you, Marissa?
Well, definitely, yeah. I mean, I was angry. Like, I can agree with you on that one. I was just like, I can't believe like all these things that cancer is trying to take away from me. And just being defiant in the moment of like, no, I don't want to do this, or no, I don't want to do that, because I don't want cancer to be the reason. Like, I want to make those decisions that I'm going to not do something or do something not because cancer is making me. But I definitely have some of that guilt. I guess even just now, like I've made peace with it. It's like, yes, I do have a son. I did at one point want to have more kids, but now I'm just kind of like, it is what it is. I mean, he's 18. I probably don't want to do that again.
No, because you got to live your best life.
Right. Now I'm like, okay, I'm in this whole another chapter now. So I'm like, well, maybe this will be okay. So, but yeah, I do feel for, a lot of the women. And I just hope that for all the women that don't have any kids yet or that are hoping to, like, I just want you to know that you guys are loved. You have an abundance of love around you. I know it's not the same, but just know that we are all around you, sending you positive vibes and love. And hopefully you will get your wish in some way or the other, even if it's not, even if you don't have maybe like a little baby, maybe you get you like a puppy baby or something.
And honestly, I think for me, it opened up so much peace about like being okay with however God blesses me with my children, whether that means I marry someone that already has a child, whether that means I choose to adopt, or whether that means I do, I don't have the chance to do like my own egg. Maybe I do a donor egg or something like that. There are lots of opportunities. Or maybe I'm just like everybody's cool auntie. That can happen too. So I think I've kind of taken the pressure a little bit. I've taken the pressure off myself a little bit as I'm going through this divorce, and I'm a couple of years out from the time that I was supposed to be able to start my family. I am feeling some energy and some tension about that, because in my mind it was a deadline, but it's really not a deadline. It's more of a starting point. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to work through that currently. And I really quickly, guys, I want to bring up this comment from Deltra, who is another one of our Baddie ambassadors. Hey, boo. She said, as a metastatic baddie, I just want to say I don't want my survivor sisters feeling guilty. I get it as a normal human response, but live your lives, keep memories alive, and keep going hard for those who will unfortunately encounter this disease. I'm so grateful for every woman I meet in the cancer community. The grief is heavy, but the relationships are priceless. And I would absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that too. I definitely, Christina's death anniversary, which is weird to say, passed a couple of weeks ago, but I remember writing on the day that I was leaving from her funeral. It's just like, I hate that she's gone, but I wouldn't change a thing. And I still, like, even today, I still wouldn't change a thing. Like, I'm glad that we met. I know that there's a reason that we met. I hate that it was for such of a short period, but I wouldn't change a thing at all, because if I went back and changed it, I may not even have had that relationship to, like, I am. Like, you guys know, I talk about it all the time. Like, I was private in my whole cancer journey. Like, only people that were close to me knew what was going on. And she was the one who was just like, no, you need to open up your Instagram page, make it public so people can see what's going on. And if I didn't have her or just have somebody to talk to like that, I wouldn't be where I am today. So, yes, the relationship is priceless. The grief is definitely, it can be heavy at times. I would say it does get better for anybody that's grieving or going through any type of grief, whether that be somebody passing away or you losing a part of yourself. It definitely gets better, but any relationships that you meet along the way, those are definitely priceless.
And I think that goes back to purpose, her purpose for your life to helping you get to where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no accidents, no coincidence.
Yeah, for sure.
Ladies, you won't believe that we are in our last few minutes of our hour. These talks always go.
I know.
It sucks because this is like my favorite time of the month. So I want us to end with this question. What do you miss about the woman you were, and what do you love about the woman you are today? Monisha, you want to start with that?
Man, you know what? I'm going to say I don't feel like I missed anything, because I say that because I feel like where I am now, where I was before, like I wouldn't have been prepared, like, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I'm the person that I need to be for the season that I'm in my life now. So I would have to say nothing. I'm just embracing where I am now and pushing forward. So,
love. How about you, April?
I have to echo the same sentiments that I don't miss the old April at all. I think that I have grown so much through this journey with learning more about myself, learning more about the value of who I am and what I bring to the table, whether that be with my family or friends or even in a relationship. And I'm just thankful, I wouldn't change a thing. Like, nobody wants to deal with, the terrible seed, but growing into the woman that I am now, I am so in love with her. I keep telling y'all, if I wasn't an educator,
okay. Only fans account we know about, right? Like, you just
right. Listen, like right now, I'm wearing like some kind of romper thing. I wouldn't have done this before. Like, oh no, I'm showing whatever. It's hot. It's cute. So, and then especially like with I was natural before, but the way I embrace it now, totally different.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
How about you, Marissa?
I feel like we're all going to say the same thing. I don't know if there's anything necessarily that I miss from the person I was before. I think I naturally grabbed everything that I wanted to take with me and then just left all the rest of it behind, which was good. I think what I love now is like all of the women that that we continue to meet and that we embrace within our community. I definitely love that. What else is there? I love that I take time for myself now. I used to do stuff for everybody else all the time, like double book myself and tell people I'll be here, I'll be there, and literally try to make it to all those places and then run myself ragged. So I'm glad that I'm glad that I'm taking time for myself now, because I don't feel like I did that before. And so I'm glad for that. And I'm just, Yeah, I'm glad of the confidence that I even have now too. It's even the same thing like you were saying, April. Like there's stuff that I won't do. Like as soon as we get off this call, I'm getting ready to text Jasmine, ask her where she got these earrings from, because I'm definitely gonna rock those. And
in Jacksonville.
And like that stuff, like I never would have done that before. Just some of the stuff that I would wear. It's just like I don't care. Like if I love it, I don't care if you don't. Like it is what it is. So yeah, and I would just tell everybody, like, embrace that. If anything that you get out of the 4 women that you see on this platform right now, embrace who you are while you're going through cancer treatment, while you're going through cancer, after that, whenever that may be, and just who you are right now. Like, don't care what anybody else have to say. Just embrace yourself.
Yeah, I'm echoing everyone's sentiments there. I think cancer, like I always say, like it felt like it woke me up. I think it's so easy to just go through life and to let life happen to you. Afterwards, it was just like, oh no, we can do better. We can go after the things that we want in life, like for the rest of us. You know what I mean? Like there are so many ideas and things that God put on my heart that I was afraid to do. I feel like I can do anything now. And I think and then I'm looking back at everything I've gone through and I'm reminded that God can carry me through anything because he's carried me through so much. Yeah. And I feel like you see I'm in this space where it's like, it's embracing this new body. Somebody called me up the other day, said something about, I see your low cut shirt. And I was like, yes. Okay. Pay good money for these boobs and they look nice. I'm happy about them. I do like. I definitely have. I have more confidence. I think. I definitely have purpose now, and I can't imagine going back to a state where there's no purpose, where you're still trying to figure it out. So no, I am so in love with Jasmine 2.0. She's pretty awesome.
Yes, love it. Well, ladies, we are definitely coming to an end, but this was a great conversation as always. We definitely we got to like do more. Well, let me not say that right now because then we'll be trying to do one every week.
I know, right? Look, we have Baddie ambassadors. You never know.
Right. But yes, just thank you to everybody that has joined us this evening. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation. Definitely get to know these 2 Baddie ambassadors plus the other women. If you want to know who they are, definitely go to our page and follow us. Of course, you're following us here on Facebook, but follow us on Instagram for The Breast of Us and over at Twitter at The Breast of Us. And if you have any questions for us, definitely you can go to the website, breastofus.com, and you can submit any questions. And we are always happy to take your stories, ladies. If you definitely want to write in, you can write about anything. There is an easy form for you to submit your story as soon as you go to the website. So definitely go there because we want to hear from you. We know you are out there. So send us your stories.
Absolutely. And join our private Facebook group. You can access it from our Facebook page at For the Breast of Us. And Monisha and April, if you can hang on backstage, we have to do our photo. We've been doing it every time. So Don't move off. But that's it, guys. You have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.